Hey, this is Stacy. Welcome back to the Soul Pod. Continuing with a theme that we started recently about meaning and purpose. This is a big issue in the world today. As I mentioned, we're going through a time of meaning crisis and the crisis of purpose, and great levels of depression, discontentment, just generally being unhappy with life are connected to this. Record high use of antidepressants and record high levels of reported unhappiness with life are all correlated with this. We've got some numbers that I'll come back to in a second, but I wanted to dive into this topic because there's things we can do to change up our position in life, make us more content, more happy, more joyous to wake up every day. So if you are struggling with contentment, if you're struggling with purpose and meaning, and just trying to make your life a little bit happier place to be, this video is for you. Plato, more than 3,000 years ago, called man a being in search of meaning. A being in search of meaning. When he says man, of course, he means mankind, humankind. We're all in search of meaning. So this is a 3,000-year-old truth that hasn't gone away. It's consistent. The great ancient philosophers talked about it. The more modern, brilliant minds talk about it. Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, said about meaning, if you haven't found it yet, keep looking. The reason he said that is because it's that vital. If you have meaning, you can find purpose. And if you have that, everything's good. Everything is tolerable. It's when you lack those things that life becomes intolerable. It becomes overwhelming. It becomes too much. The numbers I want to share with you are these. Depression is at all-time high rates. I looked up some numbers and I found that just taking the United States as a sort of a snapshot of where we're at in the world today, uh, the World Happiness Report, which is done annually, looks at happiness levels, contentment levels reported from different countries around the world, and then they rank the countries by happiest to least happiest. The United States is in a free fall right now. A year ago, in 2023, we were ranked as 23rd in the world, or rather, we were ranked as 15th in the world. And just a year later, we're ranked at 23rd in the world. That's a massive drop in just 1 year. Uh, that doesn't sound like much because, hey, we're in the top 23. But you think about it, we're the wealthiest country in the world here in the United States. We have conveniences that kings didn't have. You name almost every king that ever existed, and they didn't have the things that we have access to. We have electric cars, we have the internet, we have electricity, we have running water, we have food, we have shelter, we have all these conveniences that kings didn't have until the modern age. Yet still, we're completely discontent. And how discontent are we? As a snapshot in America, 21 million people have major depression. 21 million people. And of those, 3.7 million are under the age of 18. So kids, 3.7 million, major depression. Now, that's just not just depression in general, but major depression. Let's look at how many Americans are on antidepressants. 34 million Americans are on antidepressants. We are the wealthiest country in the world. We have more creature comforts available to us than ever before in history. And we got 34 million Americans taking antidepressants on a regular basis. So it's clear that depression is a thing, and it's clear that taking pills alone won't fix it, or it would have fixed a lot of people by now. It can be helpful, but that's not the problem. See, we're giving antidepressants to deal with the problem, but we're not fixing the problem. And more studies are showing that to fix the problem of depression and anxiety and loss of meaning and loss of purpose and the unwillingness to get out of bed in the morning and just feeling completely disconnected, that comes from finding meaning. It comes from finding meaning, which leads to purpose, which gives you a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And meaning tends to emerge when we become spiritual. When we become spiritual, we find ourselves in a position of asking the big questions and asking about, why we're here, like I mentioned in an earlier episode. It awakens something inside of us becoming spiritual. And we see ourselves as connected because once we see ourselves as spiritual beings, we see that we're eternal, that we're not just the body, we're more than the body. And if we're more than the body, so's everyone else, right? So we see ourselves as connected. We see ourselves as part of all this instead of just this thing all by ourselves, which is what we tend to get when we think of ourselves as being finite, just the body. So the beauty of that is that when we see ourselves as connected with everything else, our life becomes more full, our purpose in life starts to grow, and it actually opens us up to actually looking outside of ourselves and connecting with people. And connection, it turns out, is where we start to find meaning and purpose. If you're lacking meaning and you can't figure out how to figure out your meaning, you might be thinking too hard because it's not as hard as you think. The hardest part about it is getting a little bit out of your comfort zone. And this is how you do that. Give, volunteer, find a way to help. It gets you out of your house, right? Step number one. You like animals? Volunteer at a shelter. Hey, can I work at the shelter one day a week, one day a month? Start wherever you're comfortable, wherever you can fit into your schedule. One day a month, 2 days a month, one day a week, whatever it is. And what you're going to find is once you're stepping outside of here, where you're going around and around and around, and you go out there, you're going to find that as you give back and you connect with other humans and other beings, other little four-legged souls, maybe in the case of a shelter, well, you're going to find that you find purpose and meaning there. You're going to find connection there. Maybe you don't like animals. Maybe you like people. There's homeless shelters that can always use volunteers, soup kitchens, whatever is in your neighborhood, whatever is in your community. Give a little bit. Maybe there's a local theater here in my town that has volunteers, most of which are over the age of 60. And it's a theater company that's a not-for-profit, and they volunteer anytime there's a show to be ushers. Well, you're connecting with other human beings, you're giving back to your community, you're getting out of your house, you're getting out of your bed, you're developing purpose, meaning you're exploring. Even if these things don't necessarily connect with you, you're connecting with other people. And that act alone is a step in the right direction. And I understand for some people, doing something that small isn't a small thing because maybe you don't feel connected to people. Maybe you're uncomfortable being connected to other people. Maybe you're an introvert, not an extrovert. And I understand that's a thing. But if you're feeling like you're lacking purpose and meaning, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, that has all sorts of negative downhill effects on you, on your health, on your mental well-being, in general, on your happiness. So getting out of your own way, leaning towards a little bit of discomfort can get you amazing results. And I'm speaking from experience here. There have been times in my life I've been depressed where I had to step out of my depression and step towards something different, something I haven't experienced, something potentially uncomfortable. And the end result of that is that I'm a happier human. So if you are feeling those anxieties, I recommend you go on meetup.com or you go in your local paper or you look on maybe Facebook Marketplace or Facebook community pages and find out who in your community is looking for volunteers. Volunteer for something, anything. Doesn't really matter. You're getting out there. That's the important thing. So until we talk again, stay happy. If you're not happy, get happy by getting out there. Find meaning, find purpose, find more joy in your life. See you next time.